Ohio, swag like Ohio, down in Ohio, swag like Ohio, down in Ohio.
Hello and welcome back to Wish for Death Island, Population Me. Today, we're back at this hellscape again. I can't help it. It's so bad that I need to see it through. I'm dumb, also. Here I was, thinking this was gonna be a normal old thing like Batwoman where we would laugh at it and move on, but no. This is a special show. It actually got acknowledged by the President of the United States himself. I suppose right after he told random people his butt got wiped and then he fell over afterwards because he doesn't know what a Velma is, and there's no real reason that he can actually sniff her, so what does it matter? It's also getting a season 2. I'm pretty sure the people who watch the show hate it, and the people who like the show don't even watch it, but they just go along with it because that's what you do to please the party. Or they're 14-year-olds and thus not allowed to have an opinion, in my opinion. The type of people who like live-action Disney remakes, you know? But I can't help it. I love watching bad media and complaining about it. It's hilarious. It fills that space where my heart should be. Anyways, here is a quick recap of the shit that happened in the first episode. Velma is a dumb bitch, whose mom went missing so she needs to solve the mystery, but she also doesn't solve them because she gets weird hallucinations, and then someone starts killing all the shits at her school. So she got framed for it initially, but she started schizo-posting and proved herself, and now she wants to solve who's actually doing it. The current suspect is Fred, who is a weird man baby who has a small penis or something. Anyways, let's get to the next one. So Fred got taken in for murder, for some reason. I don't know why. I remember him being shot in the last episode, but then it came out that he didn't actually do it because he was just paying people off to not talk about his tiny penis. I don't understand, but his penis is shown to everyone anyway, and his dad is very concerned that everyone saw it. Not because, you know, that's gross for a child to be naked, but because it's small.
It's the murders.
It's not small, it's scared.
For some reason, Norval has a magic sword. Daphne is stuffing her beanbag with cash. I guess she's gonna deal drugs. And then we get this ad. Now, this is obviously supposed to be like a joke ad making fun of how Fred's family has this like rich people stuff that no one actually wants, but it's kind of guilts you into buying it because you don't want to look poor in society and stuff. And they played it because Fred is being arrested. But the ad in particular is interesting to me because it says, "What are you, poor?" And it's trying to make fun of like useless fashion brands. But the thing is, the type of people that like this show are the type to buy these useless expensive things because of the party colors slapped on it. Like that one creepy dude that gets sponsorships from all these useless expensive clothing brands that offer nothing and have these like flashy, flaunting, snobby ads. They try to be relatable to you, but they just cost so much and there's no real reason to get any because all it is just a brand recognition. So who is actually being made fun of with the joke? And you'll see this quite a few times where I get what they're going for with the joke, but in my eyes it seems like it's a joke that makes fun of themselves, but then when you look at the context of the show and the other jokes, it's definitely not something that they're actually trying to do. They're not trying to make fun of themselves, so what is happening? They announced that Velma's dad is being the lawyer for the Joneses. Now, he didn't tell her this, the news told her this, but he thinks it's fine because of money and he wants to buy his pregnant girlfriend cameras for her baby Instagram or some shit. Remember, there can be no good dads in this show. Every single dad in this show sucks. Kinda makes you wonder about the people who made the show.
Fred didn't do it.
Fred's a rich white guy with a tiny dong.
Velma says that Fred definitely did it because he's white and has a small penis, and that's all the evidence you need to arrest someone nowadays. So they go to school and Velma needs to talk to Daphne because her detective lesbian parents can help with the things that are happening.
Hallucinations are like the return of high-waisted jeans. It took a while, but we're finally through the worst of it.
This is the caliber of jokes. People say that you're childish if you like offensive humor, and that may be true, I'll take it. But I'll also take the childish label over this. Daphne says that she can make it through the serial killer rings without needing mental health help or a day off. They make some random observation every few seconds, like every few lines of dialogue they just say something or do something and then go on as if that thing never happened. It's like an extreme version of the cutaway gags in Family Guy, but it just happens every few seconds. Like every line of dialogue. Like this one about Velma spray painting shit on the wall.
I know you think I'm a huge bitch who ditched you to be cool.
What? That's so not true.
It happened a few seconds after they made that joke that I showed of Daphne getting out of the car.
The kids in every teen show ever can get through a brush with a deranged serial killer, so can I.
This isn't like some running gag or like, comes back later to subvert your expectations. I don't understand why Velma would just treat walls like her personal diary and clearly show who did it when she's never done this before. No one else is reacting to it. Or that weird thing that she did last episode where she was stalking everyone else in the gym showers for no fucking reason, and then attack them like an actual serial killer, and then never did it again. These are jokes that the show thinks is so fucking funny, but it happens so often that these characters are just random things. They have no consistency because everything they do is a joke. It's like the problem that I had with Batwoman all over again, because everything they say is a quip. I can't really take it seriously. Even in a comedy, you're supposed to have some serious moments and consistency of the character, and that's part of where the comedy comes from, but these guys are just they're like just quips as a person. Velma needs to get $10 dues to get access to the cold case file from the lesbians, but Velma's dad has a meeting with some idiots. They show Fred as this fucking idiot who can't eat pancakes unless they cut it for him, and he has these weird anger issues where it's kind of gonna be a detriment because it looks like he could kill someone.
Trying to choke me to death? You forgot Cuddies.
Alcoholic beverages like a baby.
Yes, Father. Sorry, Father.
The original Fred was definitely goofy and kind of a dork, but he still had qualities where you wanted to see him on screen and wanted to see him succeed. He had a good heart, and when the jokes happened, they were good-natured and kind of affirmed how endearing the goofiness was. Is this Fred legitimately mentally disabled? He's absolutely mentally disabled. So they decide that the plan that they're going with is to try and play up the childlike nature of his stupidity so they can convince people that he's too cute and innocent to kill anyone because he's just a child. This exchange and all of the white people jokes that have happened makes me believe that the actual killer is one of the parents, or both of the parents. That's my answer, both of the parents, that's my prediction. Call me Nostradamus. So Velma goes to Norval's house. His mum is the principal. Wow, Velma really knows everyone. For someone who's supposed to be a disenfranchised poor minority who's oppressed, she knows the cops on a first name basis, and the cops are also minorities in some capacities, so it's not like they would just treat her bad because white man. Her dad is a lawyer who takes on very high profile cases like from rich white people. Her friend is a pushover and does everything for her to the point that if she did steal $500 worth of stuff from his house, he'd be okay with it. And no matter what happens, it all seems to work out for her. She's not suffering too much, is she? I mean, she didn't get shot in the legs like Fred did last episode. Anyways, the detectives are somehow going to uncover some drug stuff at the school because someone is selling drugs, and to do this they need to do some funny undercover police don't know about the youth thing. Remember this, we'll talk about this at the end of the episode. Norval is streaming eating snacks on Twitch or something, and Velma comes in asking for money because she spent too much on streaming services. But he doesn't have any money! And that's his fault apparently, and his stream hates him even though he could have just shut the fucking stream off when she came in. He says he's going to sell his sword because he can use the money to blackmail her into dating him like other shows. That's problematic to women.
In teen movies, whenever a girl needs money, a guy sells something and then blackmails the girl into dating him for it. Problematic, but effective.
But here's my take on these things. The women in these situations, they're the ones who can easily go and sell something to get the money if they really needed to. But then the dude that they come up to gets like sort of hard-pressed and pressured into doing it for her, and then the fact that he likes her frames it as blackmail for some reason, even though he's kind of being driven to do this because he likes her. Like, if she really wanted to do this by herself, she could have just sold it herself, but she's relying on him for that. And then she just takes it and leaves. Like, to me it's just a trope, but if you want to talk about the problematic angle, there's more than one angle. It just shows your bias that that you're focusing on one. But Velma could easily do this herself. Like, she worked at a cafe for one episode. Just go work there again and get some of the money yourself. So Velma gets told that she can help by selling drugs. Apparently you can sell drugs if you have a sick child or cancer or something.
According to TV, it's morally okay to deal drugs if your life is just kinda crappy. Like, your kid's sick, you're a widow with a mortgage, you have to live on a lake in Missouri.
Those are all white people, Daphne.
I know this is a joke statement, but like with any other type of show like this, they don't make jokes, they make political statements and then act like that in itself is a funny thing. The fundamental misunderstanding is that in these situations, it is filmed as morally grey, and when it's not filmed as morally grey, the audience often criticizes the show because it doesn't feel like it's written well. The character battles with the idea that they're selling drugs and kind of fall deeper into becoming a monster. That's usually how these shows work and why they're praised, because it shows that kind of duality in someone. If you actually paid attention to these stories instead of sitting on your phone, you'd understand these observations that you just made aren't true. But of course they have to bring up that when it's minorities, everyone treats them like criminals because they're only allowed to sell drugs if they're poor, and they can't have complex narratives. But in the scenario when the white people are selling drugs to pay for cancer and stuff, they're poor because they can't afford it. Daphne might be selling drugs so she can afford all of her rich stuff to stay friends with her rich friends, but maybe that's not really it. Velma basically just folds because Daphne makes a scary face at her. What a bitch. Meanwhile, Norval can't get enough for his sword, so he's going to sell his asshole, I'm assuming. While selling drugs, Velma does a bad job. But of course, they bring up white people again. How many times did they do that this episode? I'm pretty sure I included all of them so that other people in the comments could count for me because I'm too lazy.
White girl with too much money? White girl with too much money.
You don't know me. I'm a white girl who's bored.
She goes around being kind of mean to everyone and then expecting them to actually buy drugs from her even though they're like crying and shit. Why doesn't Daphne just make Velma count the inventory while she sells the drugs or something? This isn't even how this shit works. Okay, so during Fred's arrest, we have the journalists and all that stuff set up here. This guy in the front has a sign referencing the lock her up thing where people wanted Hillary Clinton to go to prison. As if that's something remotely comparable, because mucho texto, first of all, for the visual gag, and this kid being a murderer for a few high school bitches is not the same as a politician being a cunt politician. Why do these people's memes have so much text? This is a TV show. Are people really gonna pause for that? I'm not gonna pause for that. Fred does his little gay dance and everyone falls for it, but then it rains and his makeup falls off and he looks like Hitler, I guess. Again, another one of these weird jokes where they say that they compare everything to Hitler, which is true, but I don't really get what the joke is from their perspective. Like, it's kind of like a weird comment that is like half acknowledgement. But everything happens so fast. Like, you'd think in a normal show they'd have a bit of padding, like maybe a few times this happens, and then during like one of the big cases there's a dramatic moment where he, blows his cover or something, but it just happened within like a minute. Daphne is actually doing the drug thing to afford an investigator to find her real family and discover more about herself or some shit, but the cops come in and chase them during a boring sequence. Remember how I said that you should remember the cops going undercover? Well, we never get any more setup of them trying to fit in with the school. There's no sort of jokes that go on with it. There's no sort of background visuals. It's just a throwaway joke for one line, and then they come back and they try to act like they've built up any sort of humor revolving around this kind of little plot that's going on. Like, it just happens. But in any case, Norval is trying to sell his kidney, and then some guy jumps in and tries to kill everyone, and the stoners rescue Norval because they watch his lame Twitch stream.
All of this just works.
So they run away from the cops and then have some chat about how they're having fun with each other, and she tries to sell to someone again, but it's her dad because he's upset, and he agrees to give her the money if she tries to solve the case. She realizes that Fred can't do murder because he's a retard that can't even cut his own food. I don't even know how the lawyer thing is allowed because the lawyer has a special interest. His daughter is involved. Velma then makes the case on the stand because he's a retard, and he gets angry when everyone laughs at him and says that he can murder people and ruins his case, so he goes to jail. Daphne then goes to visit Velma. Velma's mom's phone pinged at Fred's house before Velma's mom went missing, and then Daphne kisses Velma to make the hallucinations stop. So they're already in a relationship, I guess.
Okay!
Do you see what I mean by this show being way too fast? That all happened in one episode. I think in a normal show that could take like a third of the season or something to get all that stuff done, but it just happens. So Velma keeps thinking about all of these things that happened last episode, and she brings the files to Norville, who only thinks about how she must be gay and not about the weird mum going missing murder. There's also some weird gay shit in the background. I have no idea what they're trying to do. It just feels like random stuff happening. Is this humor? Norville's dad, who's the guidance counselor, knows what's happening, and they go to the school's assembly. These pamphlets are supposed to be a joke, but again, these types of people will make murders and events about themselves to push their own agenda all the time. So who is this joke aimed towards? The girls have to take self-defense class, but the boys don't have to do anything because of toxic masculinity.
Have to take a don't murder girls class.
Because I only have $50 in the budget to combat centuries of toxic masculinity. Now,
well, why don't women take a class about how not to falsely accuse men of rape, or not to scream at men in random public places, or try not to harass a female who tried to set up a male healthcare center and then she actually killed herself from the abuse? Or maybe women not trying to make everything a man does seem gay to shame them and use their feelings against them when they're down, but then shame them that they're not being outward enough with their feelings? What about women take a class on how the feminization of healthcare and major institutions punishes boys for just being boys because it's treated like they're defective girls and have to be put on medication, and that everything is their fault? Do you have enough budget for that? So they go to visit Fred in jail, who is for some reason in adult prison as a teenager. They just walk in without any announcement, and one of the prisoners tells Fred that he has a visitor, not one of the guards. Velma freaks out and it's unfunny, so I'm just skipping it. So afterwards, while this whole tournament thing is going on, Daphne goes to the bathroom with Velma and they argue. Velma then says that she's attracted to Fred and they're okay now, there's no argument anymore. The self-defense shit happens, where I'm also gonna skip, and there's an announcement for the championships. These girls don't understand how this is going to help them against men. Interesting how the same people who write women who just beat up men without any issue are now bringing up the height and weight and muscle density differences between men and women that will affect them. So Norville goes to try and give Fred some therapy because of his dad, and then gets angry because he gets told it isn't gonna work if he wants to fuck Velma, and that's really all his character. Velma and the girls in the class all fight, and there's like a montage. It doesn't seem like I'm as thorough as I was during the second episode, but there's just so much random shit happening, it doesn't matter. Norville realizes that he needs a dumpy cardigan to truly become a therapist.
All of this just works.
Meanwhile, Daphne says that she can't fuck Velma because it'll ruin her social status. Fred is doing some things. Look at him go. Good job. Fred says that what actually happened that night was that his father was gonna burn the house down for some sort of insurance fraud, but then the Indian woman, aka Velma's mom, showed up and she didn't know what was going on, and then she went into the basement or some shit. Velma and Daphne finally have their stupid fight. Velma brings out the journal that she stole from Daphne. Daphne goes to therapy. That's all that was needed to be read out, apparently. She didn't look for anything incriminating, just... what a fucking retard.
All of this just works.
The reason Daphne goes to a therapist is because she's trying to figure out her feelings of abandonment or some shit. Anyways, Velma's punishment is that she goes to a therapist, and if she apologizes, she doesn't get suspended.
Guys, she kicked me so hard my tubes are now tied.
Yes, but you hurt her feelings, which is way worse these days.
Again, who is this joke for? She basically figures out that if she refuses to think about her feelings and get close to people because of mum trauma, then she thinks that she'll be safer. She can't even enjoy a white male getting falsely convicted because it bothers her so much. Velma has another argument with Daphne, and they talk about all this stuff and abandonment issues, and why is this happening so fast? Norville then discovers a secret about his mum and the nut house. This therapist thing is being used a lot, but it comes up like never again. So Velma is basically the weird girl. She's always been the weird girl. She's always been not like other girls because she likes true crime and shit. The killer has finally struck again after 2 weeks, and that's bad and shit. The murderer is unknown because Fred was in prison the entire time, so now Fred is being released because he was innocent. Velma decides to make this about her and wonders why everyone is getting mad.
Never cared this much about my missing mom.
So they decide that the best course of action is to do a hot girl list, aka make the hot girls protected by selecting who is the hottest girls in high school and the killer won't get them because they'll have bodyguards and shit. Velma says that they shouldn't do this because they're middle-aged white men, and they make her do it instead because if the hot girls get murdered, the economy tanks? What the fuck is going on? There's another moment. Daphne finally decides that she's going to get a detective. Everyone is trying to be hot in front of Velma because they want to get picked for the fuck list, the kill list, whatever. Velma decides to preach. All she's missing is facing the camera, but by God, she's gonna try her best. She preaches about how girls and boys do stupid shit because women are oppressed, not even mentioning the fact that women in real life compete with each other all the time. They set very high standards for each other and bully each other way more than men bully women online.
Guys even teach us to be ashamed of our own bodies. Every little kid knows how to draw a penis, but make a little kid draw a vagina and what happens?
You go to jail?
And if a penis is easier to draw, isn't that just because it's a fucking tube? It's a rectangle. Obviously, kids are gonna draw the easier thing over what? An entire vagina? So she decides that Fred is the one who will rank the hot girls. She decides that this is also bad, so she gives him a feminist book to read. It's full of trash and propaganda. Daphne is being locked in her room because it's dangerous, but someone throws a fucking geode through her window. So Velma finishes the list and the cops realize that boys won't like the hot girls if the hot girls are ugly know-it-alls like Velma. And then there's an entire montage that's exactly like some sort of patriarchy speech you'd see exactly from Tumblr.
18 naked cowboys wanted to be fucked. Cowboys in the showers at Ram Ranch on their knees wanting to...
They defeat the patriarchy by being ugly and annoying. Who knew men didn't like that? It's almost like no one likes that. Fred got brainwashed by the feminist propaganda to like ugly girls who are whiny. I love how this is basically what the ideology is like. If men are really smart and considerate, they'll find me hot, but they don't, so they're immoral. That's basically what Velma does to the hot girls. Now we'll come back to this because there is a bit of rebuttal, but it doesn't really help anything, so we'll come back to it. And listen, I know it's these people always say like, well, people with pretty privilege always make things about them and you don't understand and stuff. I am saying this as a dumpy nerd myself. The difference between me and Velma is I'm not bitter about it. So because crystals are not a fad anymore, the tourism is down because this is a mining town to do with crystals and shit. Daphne thinks that her real parents threw the geode through her window because of a clue? Why? Isn't that the most obvious clue ever? Like breaking your window and a geode? Anyone who's looking on would know. Velma gets told about slut shaming and how hot girls are allowed to look hot and a girl can be anything that she wants because her definition of womanhood is limitless. And men are still evil no matter what a woman looks like. It's kind of funny how that was written by a side of people who don't know what a woman is.
All of this just works.
With all of this talk like this, you will still get a lot of people, especially the writers of this show, who will make a beautiful woman act stupid because she's beautiful, therefore she can't be smart. And then they'll be like, but I am the special feminist. Like, being a bit self-aware of it doesn't change how she acts towards other women in this episode or in this entire show, and it just reveals a lot about the person who wrote it. Everyone decides to stare at a woman giving birth, so the ambulance can't get through all the NPCs, and the hot girls lead some pedophiles away, and Velma commits assault. And Fred finds her hot because he got brainwashed by the book to like women who act like gorillas. Daphne is stupid. She finds some shit in the cave and some weird ass dude is watching them as they leave. Velma tries twerking and Fred comes in and says that he likes ugly feminists and now wants to fuck her. But she finds him gross because... What? She found him gross before because he had a gross personality. But now she finds him gross because he likes her? And then one of the popular girls becomes like a weird goth thing.
All of this just works.
18 naked cowboys wanted to be fucked.
So Norville has been ghosting Velma because I guess he wants to fuck the new improved black lady now. Velma's hallucinations are getting worse and she can't be with Daphne because she can't get anything done. The dad is gonna stay with the mum tonight at the hospital since the baby is coming tomorrow, and Velma is scared because there's a murderer.
Hold up. You're leaving me home alone with a murderer on the loose?
You'll be safe because you're a dumb bitch and no one wants to come over. We've established this. You don't need to fear the murderer. But there could be something that could save her. The marching band sleepover. But it gets cancelled because the cops got sexually harassed at school, and now there's a 9 p.m. curfew. Is this jokes? What is jokes?
Getting a little pushback on the police presence in school. But, fun twist, it's from the police.
Uh-oh, I just rear-ended a cop.
Daphne is gonna go see the pedophile or demon in the mines, whatever. She gets yeeted, so hopefully we don't see her again. There's a bunch of jokes about how Fred is a male ally now, and these jokes are kind of accurate besides him not sexually harassing anyone yet. A lot of male feminists do that. Coming from the perspective of the show, it's a bit funny because you guys make male feminists act like this, or attract the ones that do, because they're all designed to be grovelly and weird and greasy, and nothing they do is good enough for you guys. You guys hate everyone and can never be happy. So you obviously attract people who end up like this. They act like that because you guys attract these creeps. What can anyone else do? No normal person gets attracted to this movement because it's specifically set up like this. And it's not anyone else's fault. Fred found out that his house used to belong to this crazy scientist lady that did some unethical experiments and ended up in the nut house. Velma finds Norville with his girlfriend, and he's not gonna see Velma as much anymore because she's makes him a pushover or something.
And your girlfriend is Gigi? Damn, this makes me think I could bag Don Lemon.
Did she really make that joke about a crusty CNN anchor who sexually assaults men at bars? Ew. Daphne finds 2 dorks hiding their identities and hiding down in the mines who claims her mums stole her from them because they are criminals or something, I don't know. So they go to the Historical Society and the journals from the crazy science lady are missing. The mum is actually the last person who took them, so wherever she is, the secret of the journal is the reason why. Velma dies while Fred has a big meltdown about the pay gap that isn't even real. It's real because of women's choices and that are different than men. If a female was actually being paid less than a man based purely on gender, she could take him to court and win because sexism in the workplace is illegal. Why do we have to talk about this? So she decides to have a band sleepover at her place to help protect her from the killer and the hallucinations. Every one of these people is a retard. All of them. This guy is eating baking soda. Velma then figures out that the dumbass cave people are a gang of workers who hid in the caves after the thing closed because they all lost their jobs and they started doing ghetto shit and stealing stuff. There were like 20 members and a baby, so the baby must be her. So then Norville shows up at the slumber party and Daphne tries to get in to talk about her discoveries, but everyone is retarded so no one's listening to her. The girlfriend shows up and everyone fights by playing the flute. It's so unfunny. Basically, Daphne confirms the adoption thing was a lie and the stupid Norville thing keeps happening that I don't understand. It's like every episode a million things happen, but none of them make sense. And this time a million things are happening, but it also feels like nothing's happening? Okay, basically, the weird science lady did bad things, and she had a secret lab where she used to live. But then she got shut into an asylum because she went crazy. And then Fred's family bought the house and they didn't know that the lab was down there. So when Daphne's mum went missing, she went to their house, they saw her there, and then she went missing and they don't know what happened to her, but she must be down in the mine somewhere. Fred basically faces the camera and talks about male feminism. They also decide to get a police car and drive to get food to feed the nerds because the nerds are eating the house. Velma makes an excuse about being out after curfew and causes a distraction so that everyone else can flee with the food. Daphne goes into the sewers to become a goblin. And then Velma makes a deal with the principal to get told all of the juicy lore about the murder mystery.
I'll throw that shit up, you feel me? Dayton, Ohio.
Is it just me, or does the beginning narration sound like something out of Desperate Housewives?
One thing teen dramas get right, it's that nothing is ever actually a teenager's fault.
But the people are retarded.
Fred's dad wants him to stop being a feminist, and Norville is getting scared that Velma might die at the secrets of the mum's disappearance being revealed. Daphne's mums had this thing in the banner of her photo because jokes. Velma's dad and the pregnant lady, well, the non-pregnant lady now, are going on a hike with the new baby, and they basically treat Velma like she isn't real anymore. Fred also can't give her a lift because he's trying to be a man-man. The evil scientist lady's name is Edna, and she had some brain-swapping or brain-controlling technology that she could have used to control hippies in the 70s and make everyone a slave to the government, but it didn't end up working, so she went insane and hid everything. I guess that's that. Daphne goes to see the weirdos in the sewer. They need her for something that they won't tell her about because they don't know if they can trust her yet, but the killer might actually be one of them. Meanwhile, Velma wakes up because she had another episode, but they keep getting hallucinations whenever the truth comes out. Why don't these guys just tell Norval the information and then he can slowly feed the information to her over the course of the show in bits? So that she doesn't go mental? That would be a way easier solution. But they're trying to figure it out anyway. Velma realizes that her true hallucinations are actually from daddy issues. Maybe because he doesn't believe that the mom went missing and he doesn't love her. So she goes to talk to him. Meanwhile, Daphne does dumb things and everyone is boring. Velma bonds over being with her dad because the cafe randomly turns into a strip club, and this is interesting information. As she brings up finding her mom again, Fred appears, and then he drags off because he's a feminist, and they make a joke about reverse sexism. Do they really think it's reverse sexism and not just sexism? Because calling it reverse sexism makes it sound like men are not included as a biological sex. I don't understand. Anyways, Velma dances on a pole, and her dad says that he's finally gonna spend time with her again.
All of this just works.
There's a weird montage, and there's a sea monster that's never brought up ever. Norval also turns into some cunt because he's trying to not be a beta. Velma then finds out her dad is just working and not wanting to actually spend time with her. He just wants to leave and get out of the house because the baby's annoying. She decides to hate him even more, and she's suddenly cured of her hallucinations. This entire relationship arc is like only 7 minutes of the episode. The mom had uncovered weird shit about the files and the diary, dug up a secret lab. Daphne is almost killed so the guys can leave town. The reason that they actually even wanted her in the first place is because they were just secretly going to use her as a warning so that if she died, people would leave them alone and be too scared, and they would flee town and continue to do drug things, so they didn't actually love her. They escape with the bats. So that's the thing. Velma gets into Fred's house, and Norval discovers that his girlfriend is actually in hospital because of a bee sting, and he wasn't around to be the man and protect her, so he's done with his alpha routine. Bricks happen. The family originally abandoned Daphne because they were stealing shit, and they wanted to abandon the baby because they'd rather steal shit than have a baby with them. So the moms really do love her, and they were just lying to her because they didn't want her to feel abandoned. Velma's dad finds her, and they all go down to the weird lab. Some hallucinations happen until her dad actually believes her, and they find jinkies written in the handwriting of the mom, so that's how they know that she was down there, but they don't know what jinkies means or why. And then the serial killer, I think, attacks Daphne's mom, but I don't really care.
When you put 120 pounds on the back of a woman, she crumbles like a fucking crouton.
So everything that Velma's been trying is a dead end so far. However, when they go home, the annoying bitch fakes being dead for a couple minutes, and we get introduced to a thing about Fogfest. Fogfest is a thing that happens where people ask each other to go, kind of like prom, but the way to ask someone is to do a prank. And everyone's going along with Fogfest because the principal went to the press and everyone believes that a ghost is the killer, and now that that mystery is solved, as long as all the women are accompanied by male dates, everything is fine. Fred wants to go with Velma because he likes ugly women, but his parents say that this can't happen because for social status he needs to be crowned prom king or whatever. Anyways, everyone but Velma goes to the festival, so she's alone, and realizes that her mom's manuscripts are about a detective called Mr. Jinkies, even though in a flashback earlier she said that she read all of the manuscripts and didn't have any clue of what they were about, so fuck that, I guess. She finds a number and calls it to hear festival noises, so she has to go disguised as a man because she doesn't have a date and needs to find the killer. There's some shenanigans and everyone likes Velma as a man because this is the fault of society. because she isn't allowed to be a gross female, but she's allowed to be a gross male or something. She, as a man, manages to convince everyone that the serial killer is still around because she's a man, and everyone believes her because she wouldn't be believed as a woman because she doesn't have female privilege isn't real. Velma also apologizes to Daphne under the guise of being a man, but then the secret is out and Fred is there. Norville's girlfriend goes missing. There's some serial killer shenanigans and everyone is chasing everyone. They kind of do it like the OG series and try to act like it's an homage, but it's just really bad. It's insulting if anything. But the killer disappears and Fred gets jump scared.
Okay.
There's a flashback of how Daphne and Velma became friends. And in this episode, they're finally reconciling, but they start fighting because they're all stuck in a ravine and they're gonna 127 hours themselves out of it, I hope. Velma makes a joke about red pills and serial killers because it's been a while since we've heard about white people.
Okay, Daphne, if you were a serial killer, what would your password be? I've tried mustache fan, I took the red pill, and van owner.
This is basically just a series of flashbacks that are kind of self-aware as flashbacks, and they give us lore, but there's so much padding that I just basically was watching through it, summarizing the plot, like just sitting there, like my brain going dead. And let me just, instead of doing the whole confusing flashback thing, let me explain the plot in chronological order. Fred got attacked, and he ended up waking up in the cavern lair that these girls are in. Now the girls were murdered, but their brains are in jars, so they're still alive. This calls back to the Edna thing where she used to take people's brains out and keep them alive so that she could swap the brains of a person. So you would think that that person is who they actually are, but someone else's brain is in them, making them seem different. I don't know, something like that. So then he gradually kind of has shenanigans with the girls where he like tries to date them and then he 2x them and all that type of shit, and they're kind of all stuck down there. Meanwhile, Daphne wanted to go hang out with her friend, but Velma was jealous of that and drags Daphne along by pretending to have a panic attack so that Daphne will come on a road trip, and Norville and his girlfriend tag along too. They're all going to the cabin that you see here because underneath the cabin is the lab, and they're trying to find some thing about the serial killer. I don't even know. They end up getting stuck down there, and then there's this really fucking stupid skit where the emergency crew shows up, and they decide that looking for a white man is more important, so they just leave. They just wiggle themselves out and fall, and they're in a cave now, and then the cave leads to the lab, and there's more arguing. The two idiots almost become girlfriends, but they find Fred, who cockblocks them. They discover the killer's lair, and there's something about colonial mines. I thought that was when they said colonials, I was like, oh fuck yeah, colonials, but then they meant white people.
Discovered it. We were already here. Yeah, nice colonial mines at Columbus.
Velma's mom is alive and shows up, and she's like, haha, bitch. They all go and escape, and everything is fine. Don't ask. So Velma's mom has amnesia. Part of the reason why she went missing is because of the amnesia. So the white guy with a clipboard explains how they can get it back. If they don't overwhelm her too much, they can gradually get her to jog her memory. However, if they do it within 72 hours, they can probably get some clues. But after the 72 hours, her memory is gone forever. The present in the box was red shoes, and the mom remembers noticing the real estate that she was reading an article about, looking for new glasses, and then she saw that the estate had been bought by Fred's family, and that was a lead to her investigating the Edna thing. Daphne is also lame now. The mom keeps freaking out about all the changes in her life, so Velma says that her and Norville had a baby, not that the dad had moved on and got someone else pregnant. They discover another memory that the mom went down a well. So, the well must be in Fred's house. They also slander Theodore Roosevelt for no reason. Daphne comes in and they fill her in on what's happening, and she decides that Fred and her can pretend to date to get popular again. The mom remembers that the person in the mask was with her but doesn't remember who it is. Velma then sees a welder's mask, and the white dude is suspected for a brief moment but isn't the killer. The entire thing was just a false alarm. Daphne and Fred are faking their relationship, while Fred's mum is interested in her being an intern for the company. Velma turns up and doesn't understand that they're faking a relationship and gets angry. The 72 hours are finally up, so they also don't know who the killer is. But the truth comes out that the mum is the killer for some reason, even though that's a bit dubious. But they have no other lead, so the mom gets arrested. Holy shit. I didn't even notice we were up to the final episode. Let's get this over with.
All of this just works.
With Velma's mom in jail, Velma thinks it makes no sense and realizes that she's now on a timer to figure out what's going on. They make a joke about female murderers, which tells me that they don't even know anything about female murderers.
Your choices on the lady confession form are revenge, jealousy, or you know how we get.
She keeps repeating that she wanted to put the brain of a popular girl into her daughter to make her popular. And they're immediately gonna put this bitch on death row. She's not getting a trial, she's not getting anything, it's just immediate death row. So Velma has until death row to figure out who is actually killing people. Right. Daphne gets her internship at the stupid bitch's company, and in order to continue her internship, she has to spend more time with Fred. Velma gets herself arrested so that she can be in the same cell as her mom and talk to her mom, because I guess they're trying to prevent her from solving the mystery so they can kill the mom. I don't know why this is fucking happening. They're probably gonna blame it on white men. A white man probably or a white woman or whoever did this all along because white people are evil. The whole reason that she even gets arrested is because a white man says that she did a thing, even though real life, like, the opposite is true. This is so out of touch. She basically says that her mom can't have done it because her mom got hypnotized. She remembers that there was a pocket watch or something involved. Daphne finds another geode and finds said pocket watch. So they have a clue now, I guess. Daphne breaks out of her house to show this pocket watch to Velma. Then the hallucination is revealed to be hypnotism all along. The reason why she was hallucinating is because of hypnotism, and the mom was hypnotized. Everyone was just hypnotized. Hypnotism for everyone. There's a car sent for Daphne to do some stuff at the internship, so Velma's on her own now. There's a shitty replay of the beginning of the episode where she's sneaking around and the brains are there. Nothing happens. Norville is moving away. No one cares. Velma figures out that the mean white woman did it all along because she's white. Because Fred is a retard and the mother wanted to replace a strong, capable female brain into him, and it has to be a female because females are way better than men, but men have privilege, so she needed to put a female brain in him because white people and men are evil. And they had the killer tied up and didn't take the mask off. Like, the first thing that you would do is take the mask off, but they just didn't until a dramatic moment. And it wasn't like they were being self-aware about the dramatic moment, it just happened that way. The doctor, Edna, was a freaky bitch all along, and she was actually cool with the brain transplanting. But she found out that the white bitch's dad was taking all the credit. So she decided to destroy everything, and he got her institutionalized because she's a woman and he's a white man, so he can just do that. The stupid bitch figured out that the pocket watch hypnotize company was a good asset, so she married the guy and became successful by hypnotizing the guy so that she was the real brains of the operation, but everyone thought he was because he's a man and he has privilege. She hypnotized the mom to rebuild the lab and basically be the killer when the mom went to go and find out what was happening that night. Then she decided that Velma should be put in Fred's body, and there's a lot of white male privilege talk. I hate it. Fred rages because of his toxic masculinity and escapes. He's officially cucked because he acknowledges that he's a white male who suffers from privilege or whatever. They all group together and have some mystery hunter thing after they defeat her because she just straight up fucking dies. And everyone rejoices because Velma kicks out her shitty dad.
All of this just works.
Oh my god. What the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? Oh, there's gonna be a second season of this.
Schnipp, schnapp! Da, ja! Ich bin Schnappi, das Krokodil! Du musst sie gewinnen, direkt am Nil! Ja! Und Schnappi ist so verletzlich! Denn wenn ich schnapp, den fresse ich! Zum Schnappen bin ich immer bereit!